Hello everyone, it's Luke Curtis from lukecurtis.co.uk. Check me out online, www.lukecurtis.co.uk. I'm also on that on Instagram, lukecurtis.co.uk. Feel free to follow me. Basically, I'll just all things photography. My style of photography is dance music, particularly. So shooting live events and also shooting portrait, which is pretty cool. Today, I'm just doing a quick video on my new tether case. So over the years, I've started to find like I enjoy shooting tethered. The reason I enjoy shooting tethered is because for me, it personally breaks down a barrier between myself and the person I'm taking pictures of. Because normally the camera is a barrier between you and that person, and you want to try and show them the pictures and they've got to look at the back of a tiny screen, and it's not very practical. So the idea of shooting tethered effectively takes that away from me, because what I do is I shoot tethered. The information goes straight from the camera into my computer. They can look at the computer screen, on a bigger screen. You can start to get a bit of a sense of direction for where the shoot's going and what I'm looking for and what the subject's capable of doing. So yeah, over the years, I've found that shooting tethered is the way to go, and it's ideal in a studio. But when you try to take that outside of a studio, it becomes a little bit haphazard, because ultimately you need a lot of kit. So you need obviously the tether tool, like the tether cable. I use tether tools, by the way. You also need a computer, you need power for the computer, you need memory. There's a whole host of stuff that you would normally need. So it can become a bit difficult. So but upon doing some research, I come across a photographer called Tom Barnes. He's sponsored by Profoto. He's absolutely amazing, like one of my favorite photographers. But he came up with a genius idea to create a tethered case, which would basically give him the ability to shoot tethered anywhere he goes. And I love the idea and thought, okay, do you know what? I'm going to do the same. So I've gone about starting to do exactly the same, and I'm just going to give you a run through of where I am, just in case you're thinking that you would like to create your own tether case, or you want to take this idea and you want to improve it further and have a case that hosts your camera gear, your lighting, your tethering station, all in one place. Ideally, that's where I'd love to go. Have a case that just has everything in it, but obviously that's going to be big. So for me, it's a case of my tether tools, my tether sort of kit in here, my camera kit on my bag, and also my kit for my light. So ultimately, I just need 3 bags, if I pack right for the job to go and shoot portrait. So in terms of what I'm using, I am sat on the Peli 1510. The reason I'm sat on it is because you can. Well, it's super robust. It's like military grade. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to open it up, show you what's under the bonnet. Now, this isn't finished yet. I've still got some stuff to add to it, and I've kind of just laid the foundations, because I still need to customize it a bit further in terms of routing all the cables and adding a power source. But ultimately, when I'm finished, this will basically give me the ability to shoot for a whole day tethered. Have enough memory, have enough power, everything to go off and shoot, which will be fantastic. So without any further ado, I will open it up and show you what's inside. Feel free, if you've got any questions, to pop them in the comments, and I'll happily answer them below. And if I can't answer them immediately, I'll try to source an answer for you somewhere. So cool. The first thing you'll notice is with the Peli 1510, like, it's so solid, man. Like, it's probably one of the solidest cases I've ever, or is the most solidest case I've ever come across. It's so well designed. Normally the wheels sit on the inside, and that means you don't get enough space in the body to be able to pop kit, so you're always limited. So they've come up with this genius idea to house the wheels outside, so the interference of wheels in terms of the internal storage is really limited. It's so well built. Around the locking mechanisms, there's metal threads there, so that they're more secure and sturdy. If I pop it up, you'll see what I've got going on underneath. Oh, there we go. So I obviously got the lid organizer. I thought that was absolutely essential, because I'm going to put a Bluetooth speaker in there. I've got cables, I've got an LED light, and this will just, bits and bobs that you normally need for jobs, like tape, spare memory cards, all that sort of stuff, power banks. So that will go in a lid organizer once it's finally done. In terms of what I've got going on here, so I'm using the trekpak. Trekpak are amazing, an American company, and what they do is they give you these little foam sheets, and inside they're corrugated, like a really stiff corrugated plastic, and they're then foamed on the outside, and they've all got these little holes at the top which allow you to use these little pins here to create your own customized setting. You can lay this out in any way possible. So, you know, I spent ages working out how I'm going to lay it out to best suit the kit I take on my job. And obviously Tom Barnes, the inspiration I got from here, he lays it out specifically to suit his kit. And if you go and do the same, you can lay it out to specifically sort of set it up for your kit. But with trekpak, you can do that. There's no limitation, you know, you can literally create as many spaces as possible. What I wanted to do was create a space that would allow my MacBook to sink under the surface, so almost like two-tiered. And that means it's not sitting on the surface floating around. But the problem with that, if it sits flush on the surface and I don't have a foam on the top, it would slide out. So I've had to come up with a couple of Velcro straps using the same pin system to lock it into place. And that gives me the ability to pop my MacBook in here, nice and safe and protected. So if I pop that open, I've got a MacBook Pro 13 here. This is the late 2014 version. The reason I use this one, and I love this one, is because, you know, I'm not limited in terms of my connections in and out. I've got HDMI, I've got a Thunderbolt, I've also got USB 3, you know, I've got a whole array of inputs, which suits me really well on my home setup. I am planning on upgrading to a new one soon, and what that'll mean when I upgrade is I'll also have to upgrade my USB hub in here as well when I eventually get around to doing it, because obviously that has to reflect and be compatible with the computer. So my MacBook 13 sits here, and as you can see, it's beautifully flush, and I'll show you that it is a Mac, just so you know. So here we go, we've got a MacBook there, and this is pretty cool because it's also got a space within there. So once it's opened up, I've got a space for it to sit in transit. You know, that's dedicated to the Mac there, which is pretty cool. Close that down and whip her out. And as you can see underneath, I've leveled this out. So what I've had to do is cut the trekpak a little bit so it sits lower, and cut it to the right size to fit the MacBook, which is just under an inch effectively. And I've done that with a couple of different inserts, as you can see. And the idea of that is obviously the MacBook can sit on top, but I haven't lost any of the space, because if I just open this space up and put the MacBook straight in, I'd have this huge cavity that I'd lose out on carrying gear with. So the idea was to make use of that space underneath. As you can see, I've got a range of different compartments. This here is for my hard drive, so when I shoot tethered, I put stuff straight onto my hard drive. You know, at the end of the shoot, I have a copy on the computer, a copy on the hard drive, separate them, you know, the hard drive is on me, the computer's in the case. That way, regardless of what happens, if I lose the case, I've still got the images on the hard drive. If I lose the hard drive, I've still got the images on the computer. Ideally, it'd be great if I could have, you know, a Wi-Fi hotspot to be able to upload them to the cloud straight away on shoot, but sometimes that's just not possible. So you kind of got to mitigate risk as much as possible. So my hard drive sits in there, as you can see, and I've created that so it's beautifully snug. Like, that's perfectly designed to sit in there. Same for here. This is an Android, a Sony USB plug. Perfect. Slides in there. Away we go. My tether tools wrapped up nicely, just sat here, and I've still got to fill the other space. So what I'm going to do, or what I'm yet to do with this, is I need a USB hub, and the USB hub will come from my Mac, come out of my Mac basically, and then I'll have, you know, some additional inputs. From those additional inputs, my tether tool will go in there, my hard drive will go in there, and I've got a couple of spaces free. And what I hope to do is upgrade my hard drives to SSDs, and then what I'll have is 2 SSDs. When I shoot, I'll have a copy on one SSD, a copy on another one, a copy on the computer, so then I have 3 copies. And I know you probably think that's a bit overkill, but it's literally about risk mitigation. Like, your images are more valuable than your camera to a certain degree, because you know, you can go out and replace your camera. You can't replace those images once you've shot them. And if it's a big project for a client, like a big commission, God, like the embarrassment, you know, it's just not worth taking that risk. So eventually I'll do that. And I've also got some other bits and bobs here that I'll utilize for some other stuff, and I'm yet to define how I'm going to do that yet. But what I'll also do is be adding a power source, and I'm looking at the HyperJuice solution, and that will give me the ability to charge my MacBook and also charge phones, tablets, all that sort of jazz. And then, you know, I've got a power source within there as well, so I can shoot for a whole day, not having to worry. I've got enough memory, I've got enough juice to be able to run the whole setup, and away I go. So really short video. This is how far I've got so far. There's still a little bit more to do. I can't complete it because I'm actually off to Ibiza later today. I'm going to do a shoot for the Sunday Times, which is pretty cool, over at a really cool club called Pikes. So feel free to follow my socials to stay, you know, sort of in tune with what I'm doing there. And yeah, if you've got any questions, again, throw them into the comments. By all means, check me out on the web, www.lukecurtis.co.uk, and also the same on Instagram, so lukecurtis.co.uk. Really appreciate it. Cheers.